So welcome to lecture 6. We're discussing in this lecture physical and environmental security. So we need to understand what's meant by physical and environmental security. It's involved with designing secure areas, so the physical security and perimeter, entry controls, securing the office, any facilities policies, working in secured areas, securing equipment, ensuring that the equipment is properly sited so that it's in an area that's not prone to flooding or water damage, let's say, making sure that there is an adequate power supply, securing disposal and reuse of equipment, and then general controls for making sure that people have clear desks or a clear screen, removing policies around removing of company policies. So it involves not just security, but the physical aspect of where and how equipment is being stored. So this is going to involve facility and physical security experts. There's a whole avenue of consulting for this. So information security professionals alone rarely have the expertise in their own domain, which is information security, to deal with how do you lock server rooms? How do you deal with, how do you install card reading locks, let's say, or install cameras outside. The facilities expert will help you with questions of construction, the walls, the floors, the vents, any ceilings issues, the capability of fire prevention, HVAC systems, and the potential for a natural disaster. So the physical security expert may ask you questions about your location, the topography, any traffic patterns. Is this an area where you expect people to be passing through very often? Are you going to have a lot of signage, or do you have less signage to make sure that it's not somewhere that is easily identifiable? You'll notice that when you're coming into the university, there are rocks or stones that are placed in certain areas close to windows because you don't want people standing there, for example. These are all design decisions that are put in place to ensure that people behave, don't loiter in certain places, for example. It's all part of physical and environmental security, which is the focus of this lecture. In this lecture, we'll be discussing physical and environmental security. So what exactly do we mean by physical and environmental security? Well, this involves designing secure areas. This can involve the physical security perimeter and entry control policies, securing offices, rooms, facilities policy, working in secure areas policy. Think about the university and the places you can go, how the university is designed so that the movement of traffic flows a certain way. Where are the sensitive areas of the university? How are they demarcated? All of these things are related to designing of securing certain areas. With expensive equipment, you want to have a siting and protection policy. You would want a power supply policy and a secure disposal and reuse of equipment policy also. So these are policies relating to the equipment. And then there are the general controls that relate to, for example, making sure that individuals have a clear desk or a clear screen, and what the rules are or what the policy is regarding removal of company property. So it's not usual that information security professionals would have the expertise to address this particular domain on their own. Although, it's quite possible that you in your career develop a specialty of information security and physical and environmental protection. And that's a great combination, in fact, right? Because but a security expert would be involved with the design of the server room, for example, whether or not there needs to be a double steel door, if there needs to be a card reading lock for access control, possibly a camera outside. Facilities experts may question things like the construction of the walls, the floors, the vents, the capability of fire and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, as well as the potential for natural disasters. So they're involved in thinking through some of these problems. And then the physical security expert may help with determining where the appropriate location is, knowing something about the topography of the environment, as well as traffic patterns of people. So if you notice at the university, for example, you will find pathways, but also large rocks or pebbles that make it uncomfortable for you to stand or loiter. These are usually next to windows on the ground floor. This prevents people from staying around and smoking, for example, or just waiting around by a window. You don't want people there, and therefore you design the environment so it makes it uncomfortable to be waiting in that area. The perimeter of a building is usually going to be secured against unauthorized access. Now at the university, it's pretty porous. It's open to the public. Cars coming in and out for the most part. If you imagine a large private company that has equipment, expensive equipment, you're going to want a perimeter, usually having a reception desk, a sort of man trap to trap intruders. So there's a gateway that allows somebody to lock from both sides in order to make sure that the person who is unauthorized is prevented from leaving, for example, until you call the police. You have card reading locks, you have walls and doors that may be fire resistant. You want to protect also against environmental damages. So this will involve ensuring that barriers go from the real floor to the real ceiling, as opposed to if there's a drop ceiling. So some people think that they drop the ceiling in order for improved heat exchange, but then that prevents a problem for the potential for fire or flooding if you don't have a barrier that goes to the ceiling proper. Physical entry controls involve determining where, what does it take to get into this building, and how will we know who has got into the building? Right? So this way, some companies have different colors on their badges for different levels of supervision. You might see a blue badge that indicates that they should not be alone or unsupervised. Let's say they are, just visiting for a job interview, for example. And if somebody has this badge and they're in the wrong place, then it's easy to identify who they are or who they are not, and allows other employees to intervene. This is necessary, in fact, because oftentimes you don't want to be impolite. You can just ask somebody where their badge is, or understand that they may be lost, or redirect them to prevent them from gaining access. Securing rooms, offices, and facilities addresses things relating to intentional crime, environmental hazards, any proximal neighbors who may come onto the property, who may pose a threat. Some things you might think of here is, building markings, or how the coming and going of vehicles, alarm systems, if there are rules for locking doors or storage areas in secure areas. Those are all part of securing the office. There is a certification in this, actually. Crime prevention through environmental design is a certification you can do or you can get involved with that develops your understanding, or has training around the psychological and sociological method of looking at security based on 3 constructs. These are people protect territory that they feel as their own and have a certain respect for the territory of others. Intruders don't want to be seen, and they want to limit access. Limiting access discourages intruders and marks them as intruders. So these are ways in which the principles animate the CIPTID approach. So if you think about it, you want to be able to foster a sense of ownership by the employees of the company, and this way you can greatly reduce the incidence of crime. That intruders don't want to be seen will indicate a need for lit areas, recorded areas, for example, and by limiting access, you can discourage intruders or know when you have an intruder. So understanding, how to design a environment so that intruders can either be discouraged or identified quickly. So if you have work in secure areas, this policy will define the behavioral and physical controls for the most sensitive workplaces. So it needs to address the levels of supervision necessary for internal personnel, for visitors and vendors. It may include language for restricting materials or equipment brought onto the facility, so such as cameras or other video recording devices. If you're in a very secure area, you want to scan for these things. You would want to search people before they go onto the property and have a cell phone, for example, that they're able to take information or equipment out of the building. Siting refers to where you put something. So sometimes it's easier to isolate critical equipment than it is to put it in a location that has potential for hazard or risk of unauthorized access. So that's siting. Where are you going to put this? And then protection is how will you protect it once it's in place? So for example, you may have rules around food or smoking near equipment. You don't want that. You may have special shielding if the environment is inherently dangerous. Shielding the equipment, locking the equipment, preventing people from going in. Are all methods of protecting equipment. Let's think about power issues. Well, potential power problems can involve power surges, or brownouts or blackouts. Power protection mechanisms can involve surge suppressors or line conditioners that keep the power at the correct voltage. Some facilities will have uninterruptible power supplies and generators also, so you can switch and continue your operation. Secure disposal and reuse of equipment involves making sure that knowing that data can still be recovered from formatted hard drives, even if they're formatted twice. So normally you want to destroy storage. You want to destroy storage physically or by securely overwriting all stored data. There was a study that's done that shows that only about half of hard drives that were sold online were not properly sanitized. So many of these devices will also contain personal data. It's a huge problem, actually, that is often overlooked at the end of life of devices and storage devices particularly. Let's think about general control. So, you want to make sure that papers are locked in filing cabinets or desk drawers, or that password protected screensavers are automated, that fax machines are checked at the end of the day, particularly if you have sensitive faxes, you want to have that in a secure area, but also checked and have a policy for checking them. That you want to have users to remove documents from the printer immediately. Oftentimes people print something and they forget about it if it's a centralized printer, and then that is a problem because somebody else recovers that data. When you are removing property, you are typically a best practice is to sign out or log all removal of property. There should be logs so that if there's audits, that we can account for the location and possession of all of our equipment at any one time. Mobile devices present a particular security challenge because those devices can be easily stolen or misplaced. So, if a device contains sensitive data for an organization, you're going to have a policy to make sure that the information stored on these devices is protected. Okay. So here's some summary questions for you to think about. What do you think is the most important aspect of physical security? And what's the difference between environmental security and physical security? That's something to think about. Well, environmental security refers to the workplace environment. So this can be involved with the design and construction of the facilities, how and where people move, where equipment is stored, how equipment is secured, protection from natural and man-made disasters. Those are all part and parcel of environmental security. Now, think about whether or not there's some blurring in the distinction here, because environmental securities may fall within physical security policies also. So it's a judgment call. You can group them. They all come under the domain of physical and environmental security. So sometimes they are separated. Depends on the business, in fact, and the importance of physical versus environmental as a distinction, depending on the company. But think about why you wouldn't want to have these separated. So this involves physical and security perimeter policies, entry control policies, as well as secure disposal and reuse of equipment. So that's our overview of physical and environmental security. I will look forward to discussing this further in class.